Hey folks, welcome back to another episode. Today I'm really excited about what we're going to make. I haven't had one of these for a really long time and I grew up with them. Sometimes I'd go out with my dad on a Saturday and we'd go to a butcher shop and get one of these. Today we're making Scotch pies. Now I don't know if you've heard of them before, but they're really famous in Scotland. You can find them in all the butcher shops. You can even find them in Greg's the Baker. Greg's the Baker, a few weeks ago I did a video recreating Greg's steak bakes. You can find in the link right here. That's another good one. A little bit about Scotch pies. They've been around in Scotland. There's not much history on how they started, but they've been around in Scotland for about 400 or 500 years. And they're a short hand pie, short crust pastry, hand pie, but instead of making short crust pastry the regular way you would with like a steak pie or just a regular pie, we use hot water to add to the pastry, which makes the pie more of a kind of a thin crust as opposed to an actual thick doughy pie, you know. Traditionally, the Scotch pies are made with mutton, which is like an older sheep, which would make sense with the pies being so old in Scotland. A lot of people raised sheep back in the day, and when there was a sheep that was starting to age out, they would use it for the pies. It's quite hard to find mutton, especially in America, so I decided to go with ground lamb. Not only that, but me being a tight Scot, I found ground lamb at under $5 a pound for natural organic lamb. Can you believe that? I couldn't, but anyway, there we go. If you come in close, we're going to go over some of the ingredients that we're using today. Now for the filling, we're going to be using the lamb, ground nutmeg, ground mace, some white pepper, some salt, and some breadcrumbs, and some gravy mix here, some beef stock actually. Oh, another one here. This in here is a little bit of a secret. I have some special stuff flown in, especially from Scotland, just for one of the pies. And once we make the pies at the end, we'll cut one of the pies open and we'll see what else we filled in this pie. I'm really excited about this actually. So that's the meat filling. For the hot water pastry, we're going to be using some all-purpose flour, some salt, some water, which we'll heat up with this lard or beef dripping here. You can use either one. Yeah, other than that, let's get started on getting all the measurements out. As always folks, check the description below. You'll have a full list of the ingredients and the step-by-step instructions to follow along. Feel free to print it out and give this a go yourself. But other than that, let's get fired in. First things first, in a saucepan, we're going to bring some water to the boil. So we're going to get this hot plate on the go. We're going to add this water. Once it's boiling, we're going to put this lard in right here and melt that into the water. But in the meantime, while we're waiting for that to boil, we'll get this flour sorted. In a bowl which you've pre-warmed, we're going to sieve this flour and the salt into the bowl. The reason we're pre-warming the bowl is the lard you want to stay hot as long as possible and you don't want it to go hard too quickly. The best way to pre-warm a bowl is if you're using a metal bowl, put it in the oven for a little bit, or maybe just pour some boiling water into a plastic bowl and warm the bowl that way. We'll set this lard off here, ready for the water to boil. Okay, almost done there. Sieving out the flour, and then we'll add the salt, and see the water is just bubbling away now, so that will be just about time to throw this lard in. Add my salt. I'm just going to give this a stir and get the salt mixed in there. Now we're going to make a well in this flour here, little hole right in the centre. Let me turn this water down a touch. And that's where we're going to be adding the lard and the water. So, I'm going to add this lard. star's melting nicely there. It's just all mixing together. Once this is all melted and bubbling away, or at least really, really hot, we'll add it to this flour. See the little well we've made in the middle there? We're just going to pour it in there. We use a wooden spoon, start to mix it. The hot and fat and the water mixture, we'll stir it until it's all combined. Once it's cool enough to handle, we'll knead the dough. Okay, actually, back to this is almost ready. Now that our water and fat mixture is bubbling away, we've made the well with the flour, we've mixed our salt in, we're ready to slowly add this mixture to this flour mix here. Once it's all combined, we're going to, and cool enough to handle, we're going to knead the dough until it becomes elastic. So let's get this poured in. Make sure you get all that flour from the sides in. Get it mixed in as best you can. Like I say, it's really hot to the touch right now, but it will cool down a little bit, and once you can get it with your hands, just going to separate it into a few different balls, and we're going to knead it a few times, just until it becomes a little bit elasticy. And once that's done, we'll cover and leave it in a warm spot until it firms up, but still kind of remains pliable, you know. While we're mixing this in, I just want to mention that Scotch pies, when you go to a baker or a butcher in Scotland, Scotch pies, they don't always have lamb or mutton. They sometimes have quite fun things, one of which is my surprise I told you about earlier. But another one is mac and cheese. They'll put mac and cheese in a Scotch pie, they'll put beans, or sometimes they'll even fill it with I don't know, lots of different things. Okay, this is all mixed in here now. It's maybe not too bad actually. I could probably handle this. Now, flour the surface a little bit so it doesn't stick, and we're just going to, my sleeves rolled up here, we're just going to knead this dough a couple of times, not too much, just so it's all mixed in and starts to get kind of elasticy, you know. Another couple of times. Going to separate it into 4 little manageable balls. Now, it's quite hard to find pie tins the right size for Scotch pies in online or anywhere really, so So you need to kind of adapt, and I don't know if you've seen the French press, but the French press is exactly the right size for making Scotch pies. They're just about hand pies, just about this much, and you can just hold them and they're just perfect. We're probably going to be going up to about where the writing is on this one, so probably a couple of inches. Now I know, as I mentioned before, I'm using a French press to show the right size of hand pie and how it presses over and how we make the mould. But ideally you're going to want to find several items about this size. A lot of mason jars you find are round mason jars, even if they're not round, would still be a good option. I'm going to be using this to make one of the casings because we put them in the fridge to harden and then we take them back out later on and we use them. But I'm going to be also using these little dishes here. If these are familiar to you, you probably watched my mince pie video from Christmas time. Again, shameless plug, link up there. We're going to be lining these with the pastry as well. So we're probably going to have about 5 pies here. Just going to roll this out a little bit more. And I've smeared some, took some butter and smeared the butter around here so it won't stick to this. Drape this over the top like that. So this is what you're going to want to do. You're going to need a few of these because you're going to be putting them in the fridge to cool for a little while. Try and get as much of the creases out as you can. Just kind of fold it with your fingers. If you have nails, just use another piece of pastry to kind of push it down. So that's really what you're looking for, something about that size for the main base of the pie. So we're going to put this in the fridge to cool and we'll take it back out when it's ready, when it's hardened. But in the meantime, we'll use these because they're roughly the same size. Now again, we want to roll this pastry about 1/8 of an inch or 3 millimeters thick. Not too thick, but it will still have the consistency of pastry. Really, the Scotch pies, it's like all crust. It's all crust all the way around it. Now while we've got the pie casings in the fridge cooling down to take their shape and their form, we might as well roll out a few tops. A few people do this differently, different places that I've seen, different things that I've read online. Some people crimp the top to the side, but the Scotch pies that I grew up with, the tops were always just a teeny wee bit smaller than the actual pie case, and there was always a little weird gap around the outside, and there was always one of these cute little circles right here in the top. Find whatever you can. You can cut a circle with a knife, or you can find just a little glass vial laying around in your kitchen that you can use. Just like that. I did come up with an idea. If you only have one French press like I do, and you can't make several pie casings and put multiple French presses upside down in the fridge like I can, what you can do is you can still oil or put some butter on the bottom of the thing that you're using. Doesn't need to be a French press, but the thing that you're using that's about 4 or 5 inches across. And put some oil or butter on there, but get 2 sheets of foil, right? And put your foil over the French press like this, okay? And get your hand around it, make sure it's all nice and flat around there. And we're going to be making our own tiny little pie tins that will stay, that will keep their shape in the fridge. So put that to the side, or whatever you're using at home. You grate this over like this. Take out all the creases on the side here as best you can. Doesn't need to be perfect, but just like that, see? And you take your little knife or whatever you're using, go down to take the remaining pastry off, and then these will make your little pie casing just like that, and they should hold just enough to go hard in the fridge and keep their shape. We're waiting for the pie casings to chill a bit in the refrigerator before we start filling them, but while we're waiting on that we might as well do the filling. As I said before, we're using a pound of ground lamb, and we've got some beef stock here. We won't be adding much of this, we'll just be adding a wee bit because we don't want it to be too liquidy. We want it to be quite dry, because the last thing you want is all that beef stock leaking out your pie and being a leaky little mess, you know. As well as that, we have the nutmeg, mace, salt and white pepper. We have 8 ounces or 200 and something grams of finely ground breadcrumbs or rusk. And we have the secret ingredient for one of the pies that came fresh in from Scotland. Did I mention that? Or maybe I did. So we're going to add these, get them all mixed in, and then we'll get to pie filling time. Do love filling a pie. A wee bit of this beef stock. This breadcrumbs in here as well. Okay, the pie filling is ready. The secret pie filling is also ready, and these pie casings are ready. As you can see, I kind of have to work with what I've got in this kitchen. I don't have multiple pie tins to be able to make all these different perfectly shaped pies, and you maybe don't either, so we adapt and we make do. These are little ramekins, as I said before, that I made the mince pies at Christmas time. Again, another link for you. These ones are the ones that I showed you doing with the bottom of the French press. They've went hard now, but after reading up about pies and how they do it, they will stay hard if you put them in the fridge for like even up to a week or a couple of days. They'll dry out and they'll stay hard enough to bake, but I'm not comfortable or confident enough that these will stay up vertical in the bake. So another option that you can do, you can cut strips of parchment paper or wax paper, and you basically just wrap some wax paper around them and tie it with a little bit of string, and then they'll hold their shape that way. That's another option that you guys can use if you don't have enough tins at home like I don't. So I'm going to get busy doing that now. I'm going to set these off to the side and I'll show you just roughly what I'm talking about. Just be kind of holding them just like that, really, just so that they don't sag. You can get a little zoom up and a little zoom out, or just like that. And we're going to do the rest of these, and then we'll get ready to add the filling. We've got all the little, how cute do these look? We've got all the little parchment papers around the outside, tied up with a little bow on them. And we have these ones in the ramekin dishes. Here's our mix. I've added a little bit of beef stock to it because it was a little bit dry. We're going to fill these along with our special pie. Hang out to the end of the video, folks, and you'll find out what this is. Did I mention it was specially brought in from Bonnie, Scotland? Okay guys, come in, check these out. These are all the pies already. secret one, secret one. Since I'm surrounded by Americans in my life, 2 of which are small kids, I've decided to make an American Scotch pie, some mac and cheese inside. They better like this. But that's going to be fun. What else is there left to do? Brush the tops with some milk, sprinkle a little bit of white rice flour on there, and a tiny little bit of salt, and then throw them in the oven at 360 degrees for about 40 minutes. Keep an eye on them, make sure they're golden brown around the edges, and then it'll be time. Okay, my chief camera woman today is taking a well-deserved break, so I've just put the dust and the white rice flour on here, brushed them with milk and a wee sprinkle of salt. Now in the oven for 40 minutes. We'll see what happens to these. Okay, and here we have it, guys. My first attempt at Scotch pies. I'm reasonably happy with myself. A few of them turned out pretty good. And a little bit of browning on the top. This one I think I put too much rice flour on. But all that being said, I think, well, I need to try them first, obviously. But I think they turned out not too bad. If I had to do them again, I'd say probably the crust, the pie base could be a little bit thinner. But what we're going to do is we're going to dish these up with the obligatory mashed potatoes and peas. We'll get them on a plate and I'll give them a wee taste, and as I say, the proof is in the pudding. And there you are, folks, Scotch pie with some mashed potato and peas. Can you beat it, can you? And this pie here is the special one I made, and it has haggis inside. Haggis all the way from Scotland. We'll probably do haggis in another video here soon. Maybe some other type of meal we'll add haggis to. But in the meantime, please like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.